Hello and welcome to this session on the Microsoft Products and Services Agreement, the MPSA. My name is Simona Millam and it's my pleasure to take you through these slides which support the MPSA purchasing model in the Microsoft Licensing Solutions Expert Accreditation at getlicensingready.com. So this module builds on the topics that we covered in the MPSA core session by looking at more advanced purchasing scenarios for the MPSA. This session will be split into three main sections, as you can see here. First of all, we'll remind ourselves of what the MPSA offers customers today. Then we'll focus on getting some more detail on how customers purchase software assurance and online services through the MPSA. So let's get started with reminding ourselves what the MPSA offers customers today. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with this diagram that you see here. It shows where the MPSA fits in with the other volume licensing agreements, and you can see that it's a transactional agreement aimed at the larger customer who wants to license online services, software and software assurance. Now, software assurance is an optional purchase for customers, as it is with the other transactional programs today, and it's an agreement that's available for not only commercial customers but also academic and government ones too. And what's the longer term vision for the MPSA in the future? Well, you can expect to see it to include committed offerings as well as offerings for smaller customers, and this will be available for all types of customers. Now, obviously, this is not going to happen immediately, and the MPSA does not replace all of the current volume licensing programs we have been looking at, but I wanted to give you a picture of where the MPSA is headed. It's the start of a complete transformation of the Microsoft volume licensing programs. So today, the MPSA is the easy way for customers to license what they need. And this is delivered on by two key things. Customers can buy just what they need, so software like SQL Server or Office 2016, or online services like the Office 365 plans, or even Azure services, but it's transactional, so they don't have to commit to licensing all of their users, for example. Then, the agreement is a great one for customers who've historically had several agreements and want to consolidate under a single agreement with all of the benefits that brings. And we'll see that the agreement can be set up to reflect how an organisation wants to buy their licences, giving them a fast and flexible way to purchase what they need. So in this session we're going to focus on advanced purchasing scenarios for customers. There's another module which focuses on advanced agreement setup if you want more detail on this part of the MPSA. In this part of the session, we're going to look at how customers purchase software assurance through the MPSA, either as a license with SA or as an SA renewal. Now, we did look at the basics of this in the first MPSA module, but here we'll consider some more complicated scenarios. Let's use a scenario to illustrate some of the key points that you need to know. Here you can see that Wide World Importers is a US travel-based organisation. They signed an MPSA in January to replace an existing Select Plus agreement, and they opted to set up two purchasing accounts, a main one through which the majority of licences will be purchased, and another one for the technical department since they want to buy and manage their own licences under the MPSA. And what purchases do they want to make through the MPSA? Well, they want to buy license and software assurance for SQL Enterprise through the main purchasing account, and you can see that this purchase happens partway through the year since they want to make the purchase on the 1st of March, and this purchasing account has an anniversary of June. Then they also want to renew the SA as it becomes due for renewal on their Select Plus agreement, and they'll be renewing this into one or other of the two purchasing accounts. Let's start with those first purchases. So let's imagine it's March and the main purchasing account wants to purchase LNSA for a SQL Enterprise Core 2-pack. Now on this slide we want to look at how you calculate what payments are made when in the situation when it's not a straightforward 36 months of SA. So what are the steps that you need to take? Well, first we need to calculate the months to the third purchasing account anniversary since all LNSA purchases need to align to this, and in this case it works out to be 27. Then we need to calculate a total cost that the customer will pay, and this works out to be the license cost and then a prorated SA cost, which is going to be 27 months of SA. So how do we find this information on the price list? Well, let's start with the L portion, and if we look at this snippet we can see that this is the L and SA SKU and that the current net price that is showing is for L and 36 months of SA. However, there's an additional column, this reference license amount, which shows just the license cost. And for the SA portion, well, here's the relevant snippet of the price list where we see that it's the SA SKU and that the amount is a monthly cost. So let's just do the calculations where we see that a total of $18,984.51 is due. Now, the next step, well, that's to work out the monthly cost, which we do by dividing by the number of months, which was 27, and that gives us $703.13. Now we've done all the preparation, let's see what payments are made when. I've carried over the key amounts from the previous slide so that we don't lose track of them. So that was the total cost that the customer will pay and also the monthly cost. This is where we need to calculate the actual payments that a customer makes. So let's get a timeline up with the purchasing account anniversary on it, which was June, and the month in which the purchase takes place, which was March. And a customer has a choice with payments. They can either align to the purchasing account anniversary, when payments would be due at these points here, or they can align to the order anniversary, in which case payments would be due at these points. Now, if they align to the purchasing account anniversary, then their first payment is for 3 months LNSA and then 2 further payments of 12 months. While with the order anniversary, it's the other way around, with 2 main payments of 12 months and then a final payment of 3 months. So these are the amounts that we need to work out, and you can see I've done that at the top just here. And if I add those amounts onto the slide, you can see what payments are made where, and you can also see that both are equivalent, giving the same total amount paid, that's the $18,984, which was the amount we worked out on the previous slide as being the license cost with the 27 months of SA. So on this slide we saw that a customer has different choices as to when they choose to spread payments with their LNSA purchase, and they can choose either one to suit their particular situation. So we know that Wide World importers have a Select Plus agreement with some software assurance that is about to expire. So let's look at their Select Plus agreement, and you can see that they've got SA for a number of different products and that the expiry date for them is different. That's what the vertical dashed lines indicate. The anniversary date for the Select Plus agreement is June, and you'll know that Wide World importers manage their licenses and SA benefits through the VLSC, and here we can see the licenses themselves and the SA benefits associated with them. Now, Wide World importers signed their MPSA in January, and this is an underlying timeline for the MPSA which is not associated with any purchasing account or purchasing account anniversary, but you'll see why this is important in a moment. Now, when the main purchasing account was set up, they opted for a purchasing account anniversary of June, and we can see that this was to match when the SA would need to be renewed. So you can see that timeline here. So what happens when the first product needs to have its SA renewed? Well, that SA gets renewed through the MPSA by Wide World importers paying for 12 months of SA at this point, and then again at the next 2 purchasing account anniversaries. Once SA is purchased through the MPSA, they wouldn't use the VLSC anymore to track those purchases. They would use the MVLC. And they would also cease to use the VLSC to view and manage the associated SA benefits, as this would now also be managed through the MVLC. It's now the following June, and you can see that the second and third lots of SA, let's call them SA2 and SA3, need renewing. Now, SA2 is indeed going to be renewed by the main purchasing account, but SA3 is going to be renewed by the technical department purchasing account. So let's get their timeline up, where you can see that their purchasing account anniversary has been set to August. So how does all this work? Well, the SA2 renewal is very easy. It's just 3 payments of 12 times SA at the next 3 purchasing account anniversaries, as you can see. The SA3 renewal is not much more complicated. It's just prorated to the technical department purchasing account anniversary. So they pay 2 months of SA here and then 2 more payments of 12 months of SA at the next 2 purchasing account anniversaries. Again, at this point, the licenses and benefits are not tracked anymore within the VLSC, but are now visible within the MVLC and split between the purchasing accounts as the colours show. Now, you know that points for the same pool are totalled across all purchasing accounts within an MPSA to determine price levels, and so there must be a review at some point. The annual points review is based on the timeline of the MPSA itself from when it was signed. So using the start month of the MPSA, we establish an annual review process each year in that month, and in this case it's January. At this point, if the points accrued are sufficient for a price level to be maintained, then that price level is set for the following year, and any points over the minimum are rolled over to the following year. If the points for the current price level are not sufficient, then the customer is re-levelled down a level for the following year, and points are reset to 0 for the next year. Let's just recap what we've learnt in this scenario. We saw that wide-world importers can, at each renewal of SA in their Select Plus agreement, renew through their purchasing accounts within the MPSA. At that point, they would start managing the license assets and software assurance benefits within the MVLC, with the remaining Select Plus assets continuing to be managed in the VLSC. They had chosen to align their purchasing account to their Select Plus agreement in terms of purchasing account anniversary date, which worked well for them as they came to renew their SA, but they don't have to align these dates. We saw that when the SA is renewed, it does not have to be renewed into the Wide World Importer's main purchasing account. It could be renewed into another purchasing account if it's part of the same legal entity, in this case the Technical Department purchasing account, and we saw how, when the anniversaries don't align, the SA is prorated to the next purchasing account anniversary, and then 2 further subsequent payments of 12 times SA are due at the following purchasing account anniversaries. Finally, we saw that the annual points review is aligned to the start date of the MPSA itself. In this case it was January, and at that time the points across all purchasing accounts for the same pool are checked to see if the annual minimum has been met for the current price level. For the last part of this section on software assurance, I want to take a closer look at the actual SA benefits, so how they're calculated when SA is purchased through the MPSA and when they're allocated, for example. So let's take a typical L&SA purchase, and we know that if spread payments are used, then there are 3 payments, for example, like this. However, when are the SA benefits corresponding to the purchase actually available? Are they split as the payments are? In fact, all the SA benefit entitlements for this purchase are available at the time of purchase. And in terms of what benefits are available, well, it's worth knowing about software assurance membership, which is referred to as SAM, but not to be confused with the software asset management term, SAM. Now, software assurance membership is when a customer opts to include SA on all purchases in a particular product pool. As we know, SA is an optional purchase through the MPSA, but if a customer does commit to SAM, then there are additional benefits available to them, such as planning services and training vouchers. Note that when a customer opts into SAM for a particular pool, this is automatically renewed each year, and this is the way that customers receive the maximum amount of SA benefits under the MPSA. And how are these benefits calculated? Well, it's obviously done automatically as an order is placed, but there are also full MPSA software assurance calculation rules available in the MPSA licensing manual. But one important thing to point out is that the rules change depending on whether a customer has SAM or not. One other change I want to point out is that when purchasing SA through the MPSA, there are some important simplification changes in terms of how some of the benefits are calculated. For example, planning services have always been calculated using points. But other benefits like training vouchers and 24/7 problem resolution support were not, and used calculation methods such as number of licenses or the SA spend values. So the good news is that these benefits are now calculated in the same consistent way based on software assurance benefit points, which makes things much easier, of course. Now, when the agreement administrator for the MPSA goes into the MVLC, they see all the different purchasing accounts, and then they can get a view into any purchasing account to see the SA benefits for that particular purchasing account. We know that the new systems and tools that are used by customers and partners have been completely rewritten, and one of the significant benefits of this is that the customer and partner portals are both based on the same common data and information. So if this is the view for a customer from the MVLC, then the partner view will be the same, which is a great advantage for both customers and partners. If there are multiple partners associated with this purchasing account, well, what do they see? Well, in fact, all partners see all of the software assurance benefits associated with a particular purchasing account. Let's now look at the different options for purchasing online services through the MPSA, where we'll see that customers can order through their partners, or they can self-provision them and then pay the partner. We'll also look at how customers who have been buying their online services through MPSA can renew them into the MPSA. And finally, we'll look at an option that is available for some of the online services, that's buying them for durations of more than a single year, and what the benefits of that are to a customer. Let's take a look at the ways that an organisation called Contoso Pharmaceuticals can purchase online services through their MPSA. Now, they have set up purchasing accounts for each of their labs, and we're going to start with the biocompatibility lab. So it's April, and they have planned to get 50 people up and running on CRM Online Basic, and they intend for this to happen on the 14th of April. But how are they going to order these licenses? Well, they want to discuss things with their partner, and they'll be contacting them to order the licenses. And just a final piece of information, their purchasing account anniversary is January. So let's see how things work. So here we have the Biocompatibility Lab who want to make some purchases through their partner. We know it's April 2015, so let's get a timeline ready, and we're going to see the actions that the customer takes at the bottom of the slide and the partner activity at the top. So the first action is that the customer contacts the partner with their order details and of course a purchase order. The partner then goes to the MVLPC and clicks on the orders tile and then creates the order, including details such as the usage date, which is when the service should be made available to the customer. Later in the month, it's time for the CRM deployment. So on the 14th, the service becomes available and they can start assigning licenses to users. Meanwhile, at the partner, an invoice is raised by Microsoft. Now, it's not actually physically sent. The partner needs to go to the reports tile and then run an invoices report. And this is probably when the partner will invoice the customer for these licenses. And they will invoice the customer for 8 months service, since the service is aligned to the purchasing account anniversary and it's for full months. So it will actually be May through to December. Next up, we've got the Analytical Services Lab, and they have plans for April too. They've got a specific project plan for their migration of 120 users to Office 365 E1, as you can see here. Now, they like the new MVLC as they have discovered that they can self-provision their own online services, which they think is great. And the final piece of information is that their purchasing account anniversary is November, which, as you know by now, is going to affect how many months of online services they are invoiced for at any particular point in time. So let's see how their purchasing experience differs from the Biocompatibility Lab. And so here we are with the Analytical Services Lab, who are going to do some self-provisioning of online services. So again, let's get our timeline and our customer and partner labels at the top and bottom of the screen. So on the 13th, one of the authorized users for the purchasing account goes into the MVLC and clicks on the Licenses and Services tile and provisions 20 E1 user licenses. At that point, the E1 service is available and they can assign their first 20 licenses. Meanwhile, an email has gone off to the purchasing account partner contact letting them know what the lab has done and that 20 E1 user licenses have been ordered through self-provisioning. They can then go into the reports tile and run the order reconciliation report to see exact details. They will then contact the customer and get a PO, of course, and then submit the order as usual by clicking on the orders tile. Now, some notes with regards to ordering timings. In their partner agreement, they've committed to submitting these orders within 5 days of being received from the customer. But note, if Microsoft have not received an order within 30 days, the customer will get an alert after that. And at 60 days, Microsoft will start the deprovisioning process for the self-provisioned online service. After the order is placed, the invoice is sent from Microsoft and the partner looks in the reports tile to see it. They invoice the customer and this will be for 6 months of service. Meanwhile, the lab continue with their deployment plans and on the 20th they self-provision the next 50 licenses and assign the licenses to the next 50 users, and the process of course repeats. And here's our next lab, the performance testing lab. So what did they need to do? Well, you'll see that they've been using E1 and that they've been buying it through the Microsoft Online Subscription Agreement, or MPSA. And this is coming to the end in a couple of months and they want to renew these licenses into the new MPSA. And their purchasing account anniversary is October. So let's take a look at how the Performance Testing Lab would renew licenses that they have been buying through MPSA into the MPSA. As usual, we're going to have the partner actions at the top and the customer ones at the bottom, and let's give ourselves a timeline. You can see it's from the current month, April 2015, right up until October 2015, and the reason for choosing this specific timeline is that it includes 2 key dates for us: the end of the MPSA subscription and the purchasing account anniversary. So there are 2 months of the MPSA subscription left to go. And how are licenses through MPSA paid for? Well, they're invoiced a month at a time. So we'll see the lab paying an invoice at the beginning of April for 175 E1 licenses for 1 month, and the same at the beginning of May. Then they should make sure that the subscription is cancelled, and they do this by simply going to the portal and turning off Auto Renew. Note that this is on as a default for commercial accounts through MPSA. Now, we won't go into the detail of how the online services order is placed. That's what our last 2 scenarios were about. But in June, the service needs to be paid for through the MPSA, and as we saw before, the online services term is aligned to the purchasing account anniversary, and so the lab pays for 175 E1 licenses for 4 months at the beginning of June. Now, online services orders through the MPSA are not auto-renewed, and notices to remind customers and partners about an upcoming renewal start at 90 days before the end of the online services term. So an email goes to the lab's purchasing account contact telling them about the expiration of the online services, and the same email is copied to the partner purchasing account contact. And in fact, there's another email reminder at 60 days and 30 days as well. Before the service expires, the partner should submit a renewal order which will default to have a usage date of the 1st of October 2015, and then the process would continue as before. The next thing I want to talk about are the new multi-year duration options that were available from the 1st of September 2015. There are 2 parts to this. The first is that an MPSA customer can now order certain online services licenses for more than a single year past the first purchasing account, and then when they do that they will receive price protection for incremental orders. This has historically been something that has been associated with the enterprise agreement, and so now there is price protection in the MPSA. Although be aware it works in a slightly different way. This is how it works in overview. When you purchase a subscription to an online service, you receive price protection for the duration of that subscription. So price protection shields you from increases in the price of that online service when making incremental orders. If you initially purchase a subscription for greater than 1 year, on incremental orders you will also benefit from reductions in the price of that online service. But let's take a scenario to see how this works in practice. Here's our scenario to see how price protection works for a customer called Woodgrove Bank. Here you can see how Woodgrove Bank are set up. So they have an MPSA with purchasing accounts set up to reflect the way they want to purchase software, and the key dates that we're going to need to know about are the main purchasing account anniversary and the MPSA anniversary, which are both set to January. And what do they want to purchase? Well, they want to purchase E1 for some users and E3 for others. Specifically, they want to buy E1 for just 300 users over 2015, and then they want to make a longer term commitment to E3 for 3 years for 2,300 users and then a further 700 users. What this scenario is going to allow us to see is how price protection works when Woodgrove Bank buy E1 subscriptions just for 1 year, and then how price protection works when they want to commit to 3 years for E3. So let's see how the E1 purchases work for Woodgrove Bank. As usual, let's get a timeline up with the purchasing account anniversaries on it. Now, the first purchase is made in March for 100 E1 USLs, and the price for this service is taken from the price list and in fact sets the price for that order and the rest of the year up until the anniversary. And of course the amount they pay is for 10 months at that moment in time. The next order is placed in August, and you can see that this is for 200 USLs. And what price is this order at? Well, the price was fixed with the first order, so it's the same. And in this way, Woodgrove Bank are protected against any price increases through the year. And again, they pay up front until the anniversary. And what happens at anniversary? Well, they renew for the total 300 USLs, and a new price is fixed, taken from the price list, which is applied to that order, and would apply to any other USLs that were ordered in that year. And at this point they would pay up front for the full 12 months, and then exactly the same thing happens at the next anniversary. They need 300 USLs, and the price is taken from the price list, applied to that order, and payment is made using that price up front for 12 months. Then, as a reminder, if there are additional orders in the year, perhaps for another 50 USLs, the same price is used. We don't go back to the price list, but we use the same price that was set for the first order in the year. And what about the E3 purchases? This is a bit different, and we're now looking at something called best price protection. Again, let's get a timeline up with the purchasing account anniversary on it. We know that they make their first purchase in October, and this is for 2,300 E3 USLs, which we know they want to commit to for 3 years. This means that actually this is an order aligned to the third purchasing account anniversary, so they will pay for 27 months of the product. But what price is paid, and when are the payments made? Well, the best price at the current time is found, and you can see that the price list, promotions and concessions are all checked, and perhaps at this point the best price for Woodgrove Bank was from a promotion, and so that price is applied to the whole order of 27 months. Now, Woodgrove Bank could pay at this time for the full order, or they can spread payments, paying just 3 months now up to the purchasing account anniversary, and then making further payments at the anniversaries. Now, at this point the prices are protected. Woodgrove Bank know that they will be paying on spread payments on this order, but also a price ceiling is set for E3, and this is taken from the price list. We'll see how that works in a moment. It's now the following May, and Woodgrove Bank want to add another 700 E3 USLs, and because they are adding to a service that they already have and for which there is price protection, these purchases are coterminous. So this means that they place an order for 20 months of the service. And what price is used? Well, the best price will again be found for them looking across the price list, promotions, concessions as before, but now also the price ceiling that was established with the previous order of E3. And let's say that this time the best price is found from a concession. So this is the price that is applied to the 20-month order, and again payments can be up front or spread. So the purple price down here applies to that order. Now, a couple of things to note. These protected prices are restricted to a single purchasing account. In other words, we know that Woodgrove Bank have additional purchasing accounts, and if they want to purchase E3 with protected pricing, then that pricing would have to be protected for that individual purchasing account. And also, Woodgrove Bank are committed to the 3-year term here, and there is no option for them to reduce the subscriptions in this term. Now let's see how the points allocation and the price levels work for Woodgrove Bank, specifically with their E3 purchases with the 3-year commitment. We know the anniversary for the MPSA is January, so here's a timeline, and here are the points up the side. The order that Woodgrove Bank made was a 3-year commitment to 2,300 E3 USLs, and all these points are allocated at the time of order, so that would be 6,900 points, which we can see here as a bar. Now, what price level does that entitle Woodgrove Bank to? So here are the price levels. Level A is at 500 points and level B is at 4,000 points. And that shows us that Woodgrove Bank are entitled to level B pricing. As you will remember, this price level goes across the whole of the MPSA for every purchasing account and for every purchase of licenses, software assurance or online services in the applications pool. Let's assume that there are no further purchases for Woodgrove Bank in this year, so what happens at the annual points check? Well, their purchases were 6,900 points, which is 2,900 points over the requirement for level B. So in January they have 2,900 rollover points and their price level for the second year is set at level B. Then we know that in the following May they make a purchase of 700 E3 USLs, which is coterminous with the original 3-year order, so that's for the remaining 2 years, which totals 1,400 points, and you can see on the chart here that that just takes them over the 4,000 points, 4,300 actually. So at the annual points check they have attained level B pricing, and so that's set for the third year, and they've also got 300 rollover points as well. Let's now assume that there are no more purchases made in the third year. So what happens at the annual points check? Well, they are re-levelled down one level, so their price level is confirmed as level A for the final year that we see here. Well, that concludes this session, so thank you for listening and good luck when you take the associated exam.